this discussion in between. We have seen the frightening videos of actual rockets and a lot of rockets being actually fired into the Israeli cities and settlement areas on various social media platforms, with a background sound of alarming sirens playing all over those settlements and a frightening sight of fearful citizens trying to protect themselves and their families. We have also seen and read quite a lot about the Iron Dome technology, which the country has employed to intercept these rockets. But then we can understand that this ongoing crisis goes much deeper in its context and much behind in time in the history than we can possibly think about right now. As a learned and well-read audience comprising of academicians and scholars from various universities and think tanks from India and abroad, we can somehow perceive that these ongoing events should not be seen only in the terms of their short-term, immediate current occurrences, but should rather be seen and analyzed with a larger picture in the background. They do have a very important geopolitical context and should be rightfully analyzed in the larger strategic framework of the region since Israel's war of independence in the year 1948. However, this being said, there are also micro-level details to it, like what and how things are happening or unfolding on the ground right now, the tactics and strategies which are being adopted to save or maybe use the human lives, which also somehow reflect the intent of the concerned parties as well as the well-being of all these stakeholders living in those regions. And it is because of this precise reason that we all have gathered today here on this digital platform. And we are sincerely thankful to Mr. Yaakov as well as Captain Libby for taking out their precious time from their busy schedules to explain this matter in its absolute detail and for making us understand two very important things. That what is this crisis all about and why should it be a concern for everyone? Before moving ahead with today's session, I would like to provide a brief introduction of both of our expert speakers today. Firstly, I would like to introduce Mr. Yaakov Finkelstein, who is the Consul General in the Consulate General of Israel in Mumbai. He graduated in psychology from Bahrain University, Ramat Gan, Israel. Later, he completed his MA in International Relations from the Hebrew University, Jerusalem, Israel. Prior to his role of Consul General since August 2017, he was the Director of Department for Jewish Communities, Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Jerusalem for 2 years, and has also served on various important roles in the same Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Embassy of Israel, Warsaw, Poland, and Embassy of Israel in Baku, Azerbaijan. Apart from this, he was in military service from where he retired with the rank of captain. During this time, he served a full 2 years as a full combat soldier and a section commander at the Paratroopers Brigade, and for another 2 years served at various roles in the Israeli Defense Forces. The second expert speaker for today is Captain Libby Weiss. The Captain Libby is a strategic communicator and expert on social media coverage and media coverage of Israel, and a popular speaker regarding Israel's fight for international legitimacy and the challenges of fighting terror under a global spotlight. Captain Libby spent years on the front lines of Israel advocacy as the Israel Defense Forces spokesperson to the United States and head of international social media during her time in the Israel Defense Forces, during which she was also awarded the Presidential Medal of Excellence in the year 2014. She has been interviewed hundreds of times for leading world media, often under fire, during the Operation Protective Edge in Hamas tunnels, and in Nepal and the Philippines as spokesperson for the IDF humanitarian delegations to those countries. So the outline of today's session is going to be, we are going to see an opening remark by Mr. Yaakov, followed by a real-time brief about the ongoing scenario by Captain Libby, which will be followed by a very small question and answer because Captain Libby might have to leave early. And finally, a concluding remark provided again by Mr. Yaakov. After this, the session would be open for having the question and answer session in detail, wherein the participants can ask relevant questions to Mr. Yaakov directly. So without further ado, I would sincerely like to invite Mr. Yaakov to come on this digital dais and start this very enlighteningly but very crucial session today. Shalom, Mr. Yaakov.
Hello, namaskar, Anugraji, and thank you and the Young Thinkers Forum for the opportunity to present the very important issue to your audience. I want to give the floor to Captain Weiss. I just want to say in the outset two things. One is maybe a very provocative statement. Please don't believe a word we are saying. Okay, neither me nor Captain Weiss. You can check us, check the facts. Most of the information is out there on the internet. Check us. We are convinced that our words are based on the facts, so you have nothing to hide. We are ready for you to challenge us and check us. Second thing is, if I have in a nutshell, to say what is the essence of this round of escalation all about, it's purely about Hamas terrorist organization wanting to annihilate Israel. This is their final goal according to their own charter. Again, you can Google, go into Hamas internet site and see their charter. This is their goal, to annihilate Israel. It's nothing about the Sheikh Jarrah real estate conflict. It's nothing about freedom of practice of religion on Temple Mount. It's nothing about any other thing. It's simply a terrorist organization that wants to annihilate Israel. And we, of course, any other country, want to protect our right to exist and the right of our citizens to live in peace. So we'll elaborate more again after giving Captain Libby the floor to maybe brief us about the recent developments. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Yes, open to you, Captain Libby.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm really thrilled to be joining all of you virtually today. Once again, the situation here, every day I wake up and I hope to be able to say that the situation has calmed down. And unfortunately, that isn't the case. In terms of giving some background and some context, this conflict started just about a week ago when Hamas launched rockets towards Jerusalem. Towards our capital, and of course towards a city that is holy to certainly both of our faiths as well as the Christian faith. And since those rockets were launched towards Jerusalem, Hamas has continued really at an unprecedented level in terms of the number of rockets that they have fired towards Israeli civilians across the country. Today, as of the time here, as of 10:07 in the morning here in Israel, Hamas has launched about 2,900 rockets. Yesterday in particular was a very, very heavy day of rocket fire here in Israel with about 600 rockets that were launched towards Israeli civilians, not only in the south of the country, not only in neighborhoods that are cities that are bordering or near the Gaza border, but also within Tel Aviv. Now it's been almost really every night of this conflict that residents have had to run to shelters. Some places have barely been able to leave shelters in the last few days. Here in Tel Aviv, we have about 90 seconds to run to a shelter when we hear the siren. For the people living much closer to the Gaza border, that's 15 seconds. And I would just sort of venture to ask everybody who's on the line now to imagine the fear in having 15 seconds to run from wherever you are, stop whatever you're doing, get out of your car, collect your children, do whatever it is that you're doing, stop, run to a shelter, and to do that all within 15 seconds. It is terrifying, and it's really the purpose of it is to terrorize. That's exactly what Hamas is trying to do with this onslaught of rockets that have been fired. Unfortunately, 10 people have died, ranging from a small 5-year-old boy named Ido to an elderly 80-something-year-old woman. And it's a very, very painful, very frightening situation here in Israel. The Iron Dome system has been working really wonderfully, has intercepted 90% of the rockets that have launched. But of course, it's not a perfect system, and there are rockets that have landed within Israel, some that have really struck homes and buildings directly. Just yesterday, in the neighborhood of Ramat Gan, which is about a 10-minute drive from where I'm standing here in Tel Aviv, a rocket was fired and landed right in the middle of a civilian neighborhood. This is not in any way a legitimate target, to be clear. This was a street, and on one side had apartment buildings, on the other side had businesses, and the rocket landed straight in the middle of the streets. I personally went into the building that was impacted the most from the rocket fire, and nearly every apartment was completely destroyed. Unfortunately, from that attack, one man was killed, and I was even able to collect a piece of casing from that rocket to show you sort of the extent that even the casing of the rocket, imagine if something like this is coming at the speed and at the impact that a launched rocket comes towards you, what even a piece of the shelling can do in terms of the danger that it poses to the public. In response to this nonstop, really, barrage of rockets, the IDF has been striking Hamas targets throughout the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip is a very, very complicated region and area to target as a military, and it's very, very densely populated. And Hamas has really taken it as a strategy to embed all of their terror assets deep within civilian areas. And what does that mean when I say that, to embed within civilian areas? That means, imagine an apartment building in which Hamas uses several of the floors for intelligence gathering, a communication center, and a command and control center. Imagine a community center that's also used by Hamas to store rocket launchers. Imagine a business that is used by Hamas to store rockets. This is the reality within the Gaza Strip. Hamas, of course, has no regard for the citizens of Gaza. It's also important to point out that of these rockets, of the 2,900 that Hamas has launched towards Israel, several hundred have actually fallen short within the Gaza Strip, killing people there. So clearly, the impact on the population within Gaza is very little regard to Hamas. We make every effort when we are striking these Hamas targets to minimize the impact on the civilians as much as possible. They are in no way our targets. We want to minimize as much as possible our impact on the population, the civilian population within Gaza. And we do this in a few ways. We do this by calling civilians before attacks, letting them know that an attack is impending and that they need to vacate the premises. We send them text messages, SMS messages, also conveying that message. And we also have a tactic called knocking on the roof, which is dropping an empty munition with no explosive material, just a small piece of metal that makes a sound on the roof, again, to indicate that that we are there, and again, urging the population to leave and to vacate. And you can imagine that this, at times puts us at a tactical disadvantage against Hamas. I don't know many militaries that would send warnings when the attacks are incoming. But for us, we do this out of a very, very clear goal, which is to minimize that impact on civilians. And clearly, Hamas, again, has no regard for that. This piece of rocket, the rocket that was launched yesterday, that was meant only to terrorize civilians. And all of these rockets that are coming in, there is no warning, there is no calling to leave the premises. Israelis are absolutely, without a doubt, being terrorized, and it's the Israeli civilian population that is being terrorized and targeted. So the situation, again, it's very tense. The IDF, we are going to continue striking targets as precisely as possible within the Gaza Strip, really to eliminate Hamas's ability to launch these rockets. A particular target that we have been able to damage deeply and a lot of strategic importance is what's called Hamas's metro, which is essentially an underground tunnel network used by Hamas to transport people, equipment, supplies, and really serves their purpose. If you can imagine, it's almost a city underground. You see Gaza, you see a skyline. Imagine that there's an entire tunnel network underneath that serves almost as a city underground. So that is something that we have been striking the last 2 nights. And the situation is a tense one. I can say that as a citizen of Israel, I very much hope that we can soon resume quiet, normal, dare I say, boring life here in Israel. I have no doubt that Israelis and people in the Gaza Strip want to return to normal life. And first and foremost, that can only happen when Hamas stops launching rockets towards Israel. So that is the situation here this morning. And I'm happy to answer any questions. As was mentioned, because of some operational issues, I will unfortunately have to leave shortly. But if there are any questions specifically about the military situation, I'm happy to answer any and all questions.
So if anybody wants to ask, I can see Piyush Gurgaonkar. Piyush, can you please unmute yourself and raise your query to Captain Libby, if you have any? I request the participants to be a bit quick because Captain Libby has to leave. So, okay.
Yes, am I audible now? I'm
Yes,
sorry,
yes,
the
Piyush.
host had to unmute me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So first of all, I would like to extend solidarity from the student community of India towards Israel. We are
Thank you.
totally with you in this war, having the cultural ties with the Hindus and the Jew communities. Also, as my beloved expert, Mr. Anay Zobrekar mentioned in one of his videos, as this situation as a hurricane in desert. I would like to would like to know about the geospatial techniques that you have used to narrow down on the exact targets for pinpoint attacks in your military attacks. As an urban planner,
Yeah.
it is quite fascinating for us, and also to our host, Mr. Anugrah Nagaich, who is also a geospatial professional. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an excellent question. First, I have to say that we have quite a bit of experience, unfortunately, in doing this. So this is, of course, not our first conflict in Gaza, and this precision is something that for us it's critical. And there's a variety of ways that we do it. I would say that it's a combination of very, very deep intelligence, knowledge, precision in terms of the weaponry that we're using, and of course wanting to let citizens know. And we see that as that package together as what gives us that ability. And I would say that beyond that, our fighter pilots from the cockpit also have the authority to cancel strikes at any point if there is any concern around possible civilian casualties. So there have been many, many cases in which we hear the audio from the cockpit, in which we'll hear a pilot say, I'm seeing civilians, like we must abort the mission now, and that mission is aborted. So I think it's a combination not only of technology that enables us to do this and intelligence, which gives us a really clear understanding of the situation on the ground, but also the fact that we're prioritizing as much as possible in this kind of conflict, minimizing the impact on human life. And I think together those three elements are generally very effective. Of course, they're not always perfect. It's very, very hard in these kinds of conflicts and any sort of asymmetric conflict to not have any civilian casualties. And anytime there are civilian casualties, first, it's very important for me to say that it's tragic and it's never our intention. There's always a very, very detailed process to understand what took place, to look into the incident and to understand what happened. I think, again, all of this is just in such sharp contrast, of course, to Hamas, where none of these things happen and where striking civilians actually is the priority. So I would say it's a combination of all of those things.
Yeah. So a quick one more question from Mr. Kislek. Mr. Kislek, can you please unmute yourself and raise your query?
Thank you, Anugrah, thank you to Captain Weiss and Mr. Finkelstein for coming and speaking to us. It's been a very, very insightful session to hear from somebody who's actually on the ground. My question is actually not a military one. I'm a lawyer, and so I am more interested in what led to this. So my question is, what we understand what is happening in Sheikh Jarrah is effectively a property dispute which has been ruled over by Israeli courts. So my question is, I mean, I'm sure the Israeli security apparatus could have anticipated this. So why was a property dispute allowed to blow up into something which people are saying is almost like what I think was called in that region as an intifada? I mean, people are dying on both sides. It's severe military retribution. So why is this property dispute so close to the hearts of the Israelis that almost warlike situation has been allowed to be created?
Yeah, it's less a military issue. As you mentioned, it is an issue that is currently being debated in the court system. So I will actually, I'll step back from answering that. I don't think I'm the more appropriate one. I believe Mr. Finkelstein is a better authority to be able to give you, I think, more insight onto that than I am.
I will refer
So
to
perhaps
it in a few minutes after Captain Weiss.
Are there any other questions for me? Again, my apologies. I would be happy to stay, but again, there are some operational developments and issues that need my attention. If there are any other questions, happy to take them now. And if not,
Captain Libby, I think that will be all for this side. We can perhaps take up the questions in detail once the session would end. Thank you very much for
fantastic.
sharing your precious schedule of time with
us. Of course. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Okay. So now we'll move back to Mr. Yaakov's session. Mr. Yaakov, I sincerely request you to please come onto the digital dais and continue.
Yes. Thank you. So in the outset, I want to say, on top of what Captain Weiss has just described, this very hard week that both sides are experiencing, with thousands already of missiles being launched on Israeli cities and citizens, that our fight is not against the Palestinian people. Our fight is against Palestinian terror organization Hamas, who is attacking Israel and Israeli cities deliberately, as I said, because the target is to eliminate Israel. And I'm going back to the question that was asked, as I also said before, it is practically nothing to do with the Sheikh Jarrah real estate conflict. Of course, this was manipulated. This dispute was manipulated and used for incitement to get people on the streets and attack Israelis and Israeli forces and force the Israeli authorities to respond. Okay, that's the real thing behind it. By the way, the Israeli court even suspended the decision to evacuate those Arab tenants from those houses. Okay, in order, as part of our many efforts to calm down the situation. That was done long ago, but of course, facts, the Hamas and the Palestinians don't want to be confused with the facts. They keep on with their mantras about that no, Israel is chasing Arabs out of their houses, which, by the way, again, this was a house that was legally purchased by Jews, and they wanted either to live there or, from what I heard, even gave the tenants the right, the possibility to stay there on lease, but they didn't want to pay the money, didn't want to pay the rent. So again, the Palestinians don't want to be confused with the facts. That goes to the other event that is being thought by many as one of the triggers to the missiles launching now, and this is the events on the Temple Mount. Yes, at Al-Aqsa Mosque. Israel every year makes sure that thousands of Muslims can freely gather and pray on Temple Mount, not only on Ramadan month, but every day. Actually, the only ones who have the right to pray on Temple Mount are the Muslims. The Jews have a separate section on the slope of the mountain, Western Wall, which is the holiest site for Jews, but it's separated, physically separated from the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. I want to show you now a short video clip from last week. What did Temple Mount look like? You can see the preparations of stones and barricades by the Muslims on Temple Mount, showing that they didn't come there just to pray, and they were attacked by the Israeli police for no reason. So please, if the administrator can
Ashutosh, can you please play the video file? Yeah.
The first video. This is inside the mosque and on the plaza of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. You don't have to be Muslim to know that all these stones are not a regular part of the Muslim rituals, yes? This is the holy month of Ramadan, where Muslims are supposed to be fasting, meditating, reconciling. So when they started, you see firing firecrackers and throwing stones on Jews and other people outside the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Obviously, the Israeli police had to interfere and retain order again. So this was a pre-planned provocation incited by Hamas. You saw on one of the walls the posters with the leaders of Hamas that was put on the Temple Mount. Again, it's not a holy book or any religious message. It was a political message calling the Muslim believers to come and attack Israelis. So this is what Hamas does. And then, of course, as Hamas wants to present itself as the protectors of the Palestinian interest and the Muslim sides, they started launching the missiles from Gaza. But actually what Hamas does is hurting the Palestinian cause. Hamas wants to destabilize the region, the Middle East, and they're not bringing the Palestinians any closer to peace or to independence. Palestinians who want to have peace should approach the negotiation table like the Palestinian leadership did in the past. Yes, no, the Palestinians themselves are divided between the Hamas supporters who control Gaza, which is basically now under this military terrorist organization control, and the PLO and Fatah, which control the West Bank in Ramallah, yes, under the leadership of Mr. Abbas. And these two were supposed to go to election. They decided to call off the election, and as part of this political dispute between the Palestinians themselves, between Fatah and Hamas, okay, the Hamas wants to make a political leverage, and they attack Israel because this seems to them a very popular way to gain the heart of the Palestinian people. So they're inciting people to take on the streets, and they are launching hundreds, almost 2,000 missiles on the Israeli population. By doing this, Hamas is committing a double war crime. Why a double war crime? A, because they're using Palestinians as human shields. They are launching these rockets from within the Palestinian neighborhoods and Palestinian population, from houses, from towers, from schools, okay, from kindergartens. Again, you can check information by UNRWA that had to admit, one of the United Nations, refugees agency, that they are working a lot in Gaza. You can hear their own people. They have to admit that Hamas is using schools as storages for all these thousands and thousands of missiles, and eventually launching them also from the same locality. The second war crime is that they are deliberately targeting Israeli citizens, and not only Israelis. Among these 10 casualties, unfortunately, there was this Miss Somaya Santosh, an Indian citizen. All her sin was that she came to be a caregiver in Israel, and she was killed as she was helping the old lady. Okay, among the 10 casualties, we have also a 5-year-old Jewish boy. We have a 16-year-old Muslim Israeli with their father. These are the enemies of Hamas. These are the casualties of the Hamas. The Palestinian terror is blind. They're attacking Indian citizens, they're attacking Israeli citizens, they're attacking Muslims, they're attacking Jews, they're attacking Hindus, they're attacking Christians. They don't see where the rockets fall. More than that, about 20% of the rockets are falling in Gaza City itself. Why? Because these are homemade, non-professional missiles. For different reasons, they explode in Gaza City, causing casualties and injuries on the Palestinian side. So some of the casualties that you see on the media are actually result of the Palestinian missile launching itself. 20% of 2,000, you make the calculation yourself. It's a lot. It's a lot. But Israel has no other choice but to defend itself. Now, I want to show you another video clip of what the first day of the escalation looked like, how they gradually escalate more and more attacks. If the admin can please play the second video.
צבע אדום בירושלים.
as you can understand, we have to defend our citizens. I mean, you saw the photos. What would India do? What would you do if rockets fall on Bhopal from any of your neighbors? Okay, if one rocket fall, let alone 2,000 rockets. Be honest with yourselves. What would you do if your cities were attacked by bombs continuously, day and night, and blindly? You saw on schools, on hospitals. Now, on the other hand, you see the towers that are falling in Gaza, and then Hamas is crying, oh, you see, Israel is attacking civilians. No, we are attacking these localities because this is where the Hamas is working from. These towers are the intelligence headquarters of Hamas, the R&D centers of Hamas. They are the places, the hiding place of the leaders of Hamas. In the last round of escalation, their bunker was at the bottom of the Shifa hospital in Gaza, in the hospital. So what does Israel do? On the one hand, we want to attack and destroy them. On the other hand, we don't want to kill innocent Palestinians because, as I said, Palestinian people are not our enemy. Hamas terrorists are our enemies. So what do we do? So against any military logic, what we do is we give them a notice in advance, either by leaflets that we send from helicopters or messages on SMSs or what we call a knock on the roof, that an Israeli chopper is shooting a short number of bullets, yes, on the roof of the building that is about to be attacked, giving the civilians in the building the opportunity to leave the building and run away. Unfortunately, again, Hamas sometimes force people to stay in the buildings in order to show casualties and use it against Israel on public media. But whoever of you who knows a little bit about war understand that losing this element of surprise is a crucial thing that Israel is doing, and we're doing it consciously because we rather lose the element of surprise. We rather let few terrorists go than to hurt innocent Palestinians. Nevertheless, we have to attack. We are also crushing what we call the metro, the underground city and tunnels that Hamas created in order to communicate between the different parts of Gaza City, and also terror tunnels that are trying to enter Israel. So this is the destruction that you see on the Palestinian side is because of that. And just another question for you. I mean, you see all these tunnels being destroyed. Where does all the money for these tunnels come from, and all the supply? After the recent rounds of violence, that again many houses and command rooms of the Hamas were destroyed, Hamas got a lot of money and help from Arab countries. They fundraised millions and millions of dollars. And what did they do with the money? Did they build new schools? Did they bring better infrastructure for the citizens of Gaza? No. They use this to dig these tunnels to attack Israel. They use all the aid that they got to fill the pockets of the Hamas terrorists and their supporters, and to build a terror infrastructure. So Hamas is working against the Palestinian cause, not for it. And even the Fatah in Ramallah knows that, and they're against it. And more than that, the Arab and Muslim countries know that. Those who want to make peace, those who really want also for the Palestinian cause, they work with Israel, not against it. Again, check the facts. Let's look at the fact. You all read the newspapers. You heard about the Abrahamic Accords, right? You see the peace agreements that Israel has with the United Arab Emirates and with Bahrain. You see the establishing of full relations and recognition with Sudan. Sudan, the same country that a few decades ago hosted the Arab League conference that called for a total boycott of Israel. The same Sudan is now establishing a full relation with Israel. Morocco and Albania, which is not a Muslim state, all recognizing Israel. Why? Because they know that Israel wants peace, and they know that the Palestinian conflict is not the reason for the instability in the Middle East. The reason for the instability in the Middle East is terror organizations like Hamas, like Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Muslim Brotherhood, who are supported by Iran. Iran and their proxies, these terrorist organizations that work also in Syria, they are the real reason for this stability, not Israel and not those Palestinians who want peace. So please understand that, please check the facts before you you publish them. And when you cover these conflicts, make sure your audience understand that Hamas wants to annihilate Israel. It has nothing to do with this or other house. It has nothing to do with the right of practicing your religion or with any other thing. Okay, now I want to show you just one more video clip, which is I'm personally very much connected to it because a similar incident happened to me. By the way, also the same event that you saw before, just before you played, on the same event you saw before, I was in Jerusalem that other Monday, just a week ago, when the sirens went on, and then heard the explosives of the Israeli Iron Dome in the skies of Jerusalem when the Gaza attack, the attack from Gaza took place. It's not a pleasant thing, but 5 years ago, when again missiles were sent on Jerusalem, I just stepped off the bus with my 5-year-old son and tried to find shelter. I knew we had only about 30 seconds to find shelter before the rockets hit the ground. And I ran into a house, but the door was locked. The main door was locked. So as you see in the picture, I just also found a very low brick wall. I put my son pushed my son against the wall and covered him with my body. Just like this brother, now if you can play the clip, this old brother did to his younger sister. Not a nice experience, but I think it shows what goes in Israel these days. Please play the clip.
הכל בסדר, הכל בסדר. לא לקום, לא לקום. הנה, נפל.
אני יכולה ללכת לבית.
הכל בסדר, את איתי עוד אחד.
Try to feel what a father like me or a brother like him feel when you are actually exposed, okay, to dozens of rockets that sometimes they send in one launching, and you have nowhere to go. Just it's like 10 inches wall to try and protect yourself. And it happens day and night, for about 20 years since Hamas took control of Gaza by force, that Israeli children are experiencing that. Last word before I give you the floor for some questions and answers is that many people around the world understand that, as I said, even Arab countries and Muslim countries understand that Israel wants peace and they make peace with Israel. But during the current round of violence from Gaza, we have many countries around the world who are supporting Israel, many leaders. You might have seen the photos yourselves of the Austrian chancellor waving the flag of Israel on top of his residence. Similarly, it happened in Czech Republic and in Slovenia. Other countries like Japan and Poland, the leadership expressed its support in Israel, of course, the United States of America, but many others. Now, there was a question here in the chat about where is India. So we have lots of support on the social media from Indian citizens and Indian people. I personally didn't see yet the formal response from the government of India. In general, the government of India is very supportive, but I didn't see a formal statement as of yet. There were some tweets also by I think ministers who expressed their solidarity and shared the condolences after the killing of the Indian citizen. But as I said, maybe the reason that Mr. Netanyahu didn't refer formally to India is because there is no formal response of India as of yet. But the sentiment of the Indian people, I see definitely is with Israel, and this is very encouraging. So now if you have some questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Sure, sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Yaakov. And the hall is now open for question and answer. The first question is from Mr. Aditya Agrawal ji from Mumbai. Mr. Aditya, can you please unmute yourself and raise your question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Yaakov, for the insights. And a large majority, a lot of people in India are with Israel, and we are totally with you, and we express our solidarity with you. Now, my question is a broader one, not exactly directly related to the conflict, but wanted to know your opinion about Turkey. What happened? Why they have turned fundamentalist after Kemal Atatürk's, the secular state? What has happened, and what is the likely effect? If you can comment, if you don't want to comment, I can understand. But what is your understanding about Turkey's latest position?
That our relation with Turkey is beyond the scope and the topic of this interaction. It's a very interesting topic for itself, but I think it's better to leave it for another discussion. Turkey is a country that we have a relation with for many years. We have our disagreements, and we try to solve them, in dialogue on diplomatic channels and other channels. And that's all I can say in this stage. We understand their position. We beg to differ. And again, I'm sure that Turkey, like any other country, would have reacted very strongly if missiles had fallen on its territory, and terror attacks will be a daily routine for its citizens. Yes, next question.
Yeah, I now request Ms. Prachi to kindly unmute herself and raise her query.
Hi, thank you, Anugrah, for the opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Finkelstein, for your time. I am a student of international development at the University of Chicago. And if you just take a step back from the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict of the day, we can see many nexuses at play. The one you mentioned was the funding and support coming from Arab world. So one of the nexuses which I could identify is the Pakistan-Turkey nexus. I'm sorry, I'm just continuing on lines of what Aditya said. So if you just look at the Pakistan-Turkey nexus, they have been providing military and financial support to Hamas for quite some time now, I think for the last 7-8 years. So do you see the current conflict as a clarion call for India? Or maybe do you foresee a similar attack by separatist organizations here?
I have no intelligence about the plans to attack India, but I know that India is a democracy. It's a big democracy. It's a big ally of Israel. And like many challenges, like the challenge of the COVID, that we are fighting together, and Israel has helped India, and India has helped Israel with supply, with medicine, with technology. Also, the fight against terror, we are fighting together. We have been doing it for years, most of the time away from the eye of the media, and things are naturally very sensitive, but also openly as democracies, we look for peace and will combat this terrorist challenge together.
Okay. I now request Mr. Milind Dandekar ji to please unmute himself and raise his query.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible, sir. Please go on.
The ground situation is very well presented by our honorable guest. However, the so-called world community is not well informed or well convinced about Israel's position. And because of the so-called liberals and Palestine sympathizers have created a narrative which is against Israel. So my question is, what steps are being taken to combat this narrative in an intellectual warfare?
You're very right, Mr. Dandekar. That's why we need the help of people like you. That's why we're initiating these kind of events and briefings in order to make our position known. And we do it all over the world. We are very active also on social media. We're very active on the political and diplomatic channels. I mean, our Prime Minister has spoken with many leaders in the last few days, from President of the United States to others, and our diplomats all over the world are also conveying the message. In the United Nations, the Security Council also, America vetoed a biased statement against Israel, and you are making a position known. But we need this platform. We need your help to bring, and again, not Israel's position, but the truth. As I said, you remember, I'll go to it again and again. Don't believe me, don't trust the word I'm saying without checking. Go to your resources, check the Hamas charter and see. This is a target to annihilate Israel. It's not just to liberate this house or that house, or to enable freedom of practice or whatever. Okay? Check the status and the step that Israel did in Sheikh Jarrah, that we didn't evacuate, and the court ruling that was frozen. The step that Israel take to enable only for we gave them the mandate, the sole mandate to the Muslim Waqf to control and to administrate on daily basis what is going on at Al-Aqsa, to the extent that only Muslims are allowed to pray there. Would you think, let's say, and again, I don't want to go into Indian politics and sensitivities, but if the Indian government, after taking hold of religious sites, would give to another country like Jordan or the Waqf to run it and to administrate it. Okay, so we go to a very far extent to enable tolerance and to enable coexistence in peace. We need to make these facts known. You need to show people that 20% of the missiles in Gaza fall in Gaza itself, that the casualties are part of the Hamas terror. You have to show the world that Hamas is using Palestinians as human shields. Again, all the evidence is there. You have to show them that they took hold of, to remind the world that some, 15, 16 years ago, they took control of Gaza by force and shot their political rivals. Palestinians, not Israelis, Palestinians rivals, yes, from the Fatah, from the PLO, shot them in the streets and pushed them off the rooftops, okay, to take over. They are terrorizing, let alone human rights, LGBT rights. It's all there, it's all there. The money that they get from Iran and from Pakistan, you said yourself. So you have to go out to the world and show the facts. That's the only thing we are asking you. Show the world the truth and the fact that Hamas is a terrorist organization, and every sensible person will know that they don't want to support Hamas, not to support terror.
Yeah. The next question is from Vaibhav Chaturvedi. Vaibhav, you can unmute yourself and.
Thank you, sir. My question is a broad one. It is a general trend seen in India that a portion of experts and left-leaning portals argue that the current clashes or whatever is happening is because the 3-4 rounds of national elections in Israel have failed to give concrete results, and so this is just an attempt. I'm playing a devil's advocate here. So this is just an attempt to consolidate the national mandate in Israel itself. That's the first question. And the second part of this question is, what are, we all saw the clashes erupting in Israeli cities and the Arab Israelis siding with the extremist radical Islamist organizations. So what are Israel's plans about de-radicalizing its citizens in general and radical Islamists in particular? Thank you, sir.
The first part of your question, I will quote our Prime Minister Netanyahu, who was thanking Hamas for doing what we didn't manage to do for a long time by ourselves. And this is to unite the Israeli citizens and the Israeli population and the different political rivals, unite everybody together for this cause to fight terror and to protect our citizens and our freedom. So this is the answer to your question. Yes, we're in a very sensitive political time in Israel, but this is a bipartisan issue. Fighting terror and the right of Israel to exist is a wall-to-wall consensus from left to right, from religious to secular, from Arab Israelis to Jews. We all support our right, and Hamas terror managed to unite us in this current attack that reminded us that we put all the political disputes aside. Okay, now we are concentrating on one goal, which is combating Hamas, restoring law and order, and securing the freedom of our citizens. As for the second question, yes, it is very unfortunate that sectors from within the Arab population in Israel are taken to the streets and are being victims of the Hamas incitements. Arabs, Muslims, Christians, and other minority groups, Druze, Czechs, Christians, are a valid part of the Israeli society. About 20, almost 24% of Israeli society are Arabs. Okay, they've partied in the Knesset, in the Israeli parliament. You have Muslims judges. You have Muslims in the media. You have Muslims in the government. You have Muslim ambassadors. Okay, in the diplomatic service. So they have full rights. And most of the Muslims live peacefully in the cities in Haifa, Acre, Lod, where you see now the demonstrations. For years and years, they have been living peacefully, and also today. Now there are talks with the leadership of the Arab society in these cities, and you have also a few grassroots initiatives where Israeli citizens, Arabs, and Jews are coming together to show that in spite of what is going on, we want to live in peace and we want to live in coexistence with our Arab neighbors, Arab Israeli neighbors, as well as with our Arab neighbors on the other side of the border. So these are, I think this is a very unfortunate incident, but I think they are the exception. They are the exception, and they will come down. Of course, Israel will not tolerate any violence against citizens, Muslims or Jews. Okay, and again, our prime minister was very clear about it. Our police was very clear about it. Everybody who is involved in these riots or trying to lynch or trying to break order is being arrested. Period. It doesn't matter if he's right, left, Jewish, Muslim. Doesn't matter. The law is one. Is one for everybody.
Okay, so the next question comes from Mr. Bhanu Vashisht. Mr. Bhanu, you can unmute yourself and raise your question.
Shalom, Consul General and Captain Libby. It's nice to interact with you, and thanks for taking out time to address Indian youth. I see that the battle of Israel and Bharat, or India, is somehow quite similar. We have same percentage of population, as you mentioned, that the 24 or 28% of Arabs with whom you always have to try to make peace while trying to defend the enemies which come from the same ethnic community, which incidentally the Indian government has also been trying to do more or less successfully or unsuccessfully, I cannot say that. The bigger battle is what your own youth or the global youth thinks about what is the situation. So just like we have a lot of leftist thinkers here who are pushed this agenda that atrocities are on the Gaza side. So, our youth are well read, but they are not very well exposed. I won't say that Indian youth is one of the most well traveled as the Israeli youth are, who after taking the 2 years mandatory service, a lot of them come to India. So I have been actually talking to a lot of my friends in Tel Aviv and Haifa about what is the situation. To take this awareness wider, I would request one thing. You have some of social influencers. One of the those I know is Hanaya Naphtali. So we would request them to interact with more of our influencers apart from the intellectual channels. So we have a lot of social media channels, some of them with whom I am connected and I work for their outreach. Maybe we need to tailor a program to make the Indian youth in India and especially in US, because Indian youth, when they go to universities in US, they get a lot more drifted into the democratic way, way of thinking, which incidentally with the new regime is very left leaning. So I would request a program on that. If we can manage to have our social influencers interact with each other. And also I have written a personal message to you. I would request you to go through it. I request, so I want more and more Indian youth that if they understand the situation in Israel, they would also understand the situation in India a lot better. I think Indian youth is somehow more inclined to look outwards for information than to see what is happening in their own backyard. So this is my statement, and I'm really thankful to Anugrah for allowing me a chance to speak over this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Firstly, I think you have a wonderful youth in India. I met many of them during my 4 years stint here in India and universities, in various events, cultural events, etc. Many of them communicate with us on Twitter and on Facebook. And I think it's a very good idea to take this dialogue further. We have with us also my deputy Nimrod Kalmar and Anay Joglekar from our team in the consulate. And we can organize a session maybe with Hanani Naftali himself or other influencer, you know, on the social media. And you are also welcome to follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. Just search for Israel in India, Israel in Mumbai, or Israel Mumbai on Instagram. Israel in India is also very good. That's our embassy's platform. And you have many of materials there. But I take your suggestion to try and organize a specific session. And by the way, the biggest foreign students population in Israel is from India. Okay, 10% of foreign students in Israel are from India, and I think this is again a great bridge and a great mean and channel of communication, because when they go there, they see first of all that Israel welcomed them so warmly, and those who've been there themselves surely have experienced that too. That Israel is very welcoming for foreigners, especially from India. We have a great love for India, and they understand that it can't be that people like Israelis are so welcoming for others, so open-minded and so life-loving, can be so mean to Muslims or to Palestinians, like we are being described by Hamas and other terror organizations on the net. So the first-hand experience is very important. So we can organize that, and just to show you that there are also other voices on the other side, and again to support some Palestinian sources. What I've been saying, I want the administrator to show this tweet from a Palestinian children rights organization who tweeted about the number of Palestinian children and citizens who were killed by the Hamas own attacks, Hamas own missiles. If you can please just show, again, you can just go afterwards on Twitter and see it for yourselves.
Ashutosh, can you share the screen and show the tweet which Mr. Yaakov is mentioning about?
It's the last slide. Do you have it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll read it for you. Yes, this is from Defense for Children. Again, it's a Palestinian human rights organization. In the second incident around 6 p.m., a homemade rocket fired by a Palestinian armed group, yeah, that's Hamas apparently, fell short and killed 8 Palestinians. 8 Palestinians were killed by Hamas rockets, including 2 children. The rocket landed in Saleh, whatever, they give the location. Now look down in the small letter, another tweet before that, they give the names. Mustafa Mohammed Mahmoud Obayed, 16 years old boy, was killed in the blast. And 5 years old Bara Wissam Ahmad, yes, succumbed to his injuries around 11 p.m. This is from the Palestinians' own attack. I want to tell you that as much as Israel is trying its best to avoid Palestinian civilian injuries because of Hamas using Palestinians as human shields, it's almost inevitable. Unfortunately, there are civilian victims on the other side, and we regret that. We regret it dearly. We don't want to see, they say, the Palestinian casualties. Palestinian people are not our enemy. Hamas terrorists are is our enemy. But Hamas launching these rockets, and again, see, out of these 10 casualties, most of them are old people, women, and children, and one is Indian lady. These are the victims of Hamas blind attacks. So we must do everything we can to stop that, and we need your help to bring the truth, to bring the facts to the world, to show that it's a terror attack that Israel is facing, and everybody who supports justice and peace, everybody who opposes terror must stand with Israel and show solidarity to Israel in its fight against terror. Thank you very much again.
Yeah, really.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yaakov ji. Because we are running short on time, I now request Ms. Nina ji to please unmute herself and raise her question. Yaakov ji, we are going to take only 2 more questions due to the shortage of time. So yeah, Nina ji, please go on.
Namaste, Yaakov ji. I wanted to ask you, I have 2 questions actually. I wanted to ask you first that since Israel has been formed, I have noticed a similar pattern of attacks on Israel, very similar to what India has faced. I'll name them. For example, the 6-day war. I don't remember the name of Israeli-Arab conflicts, but correct me if I'm wrong. The 6-day war. Then there were the countries that attacked Israel. So first the pattern, and the same thing happened with India. As soon as India was formed, there were attacks on India from its neighbors, since China, Pakistan, and everything. After those attacks, when they failed in those attacks, then they went on to sprouting of various terrorist groups, which were then individually attacking the civilian population. So you see the attack strategy has changed. Am I correct in saying that? Like Hamas and everything, now there are no full-fledged wars, but now they're attacking in this manner. My, the question that I'm going to ask you is, I see a repeated pattern and it has changed. The terrorist organizations are going to change the patterns again. Do you have an inkling of what the next pattern will be? Because I do see a very strong information war coming. And, but that's my view. I am open to listening to your views here. And in future, how are you going to preempt and eradicate these before they come to your borders?
Yes, you're right in the sense that there is this pattern of cycles of violence that appear and reappear after a while. We managed to create deterrence and gain few years of peace, or it's not peace, it's a ceasefire, or let's say quiet, yes, tranquility in the region. Yes. And then again, Hamas and other terror organizations, they are finding reasons to create another provocation and try again. They try to build their force, as they say, using the resources they get to rebuild Gaza, but using them basically to build more infrastructure for terror. And then when they think they have the ability, the capability, they're attacking again. So this pattern repeats itself, and this is an asymmetric war in a way, yes, because it's a state fighting a guerrilla fight, a terror organization. But there are different ways to tackle that. One of them is what we're doing in targeting, killing, and specifically locating the targets based on very good intelligence. This is something that that we need now, a very good intelligence. Also for the preemptive steps, sometimes you see targeted killing of terrorist mastermind because we want to prevent the next round of violence. And the other thing is to strengthen our deterrence by getting a military force and B, a strong recognition, international recognition. Okay, our political situation is also very important. Luckily, Israel enjoys today a very good recognition worldwide. Again, you see it in the big numbers of Muslim and Arab countries who are recognizing Israel and making peace with Israel. You see it in the solidarity and the support that we get now leaders around the world, as I said, from Austria to Japan to Poland to Czech Republic, and these are the foundation by which we're trying to base our legitimacy in our fight against this terror. There's nothing recipe that you can use, and say, okay, if they do that, we do that, and this will solve the problem. But we are always on the alert. We are always on guard, and we are trying to take preemptive steps based on the intelligence, and of course to reiterate when we are attacked on the military front and on the public media front.
Okay, so the other part is, what kind of help do you expect from India, and in specific Indian citizens? Because when I speak of India, generally the idea is the Indian government, and the Indian government cannot really do anything and everything. So here I notice a lot of eager citizens. Of course, that's one of the reasons that you have been invited here to, spread the correct information, like you said. So what is your expectation from normal everyday Indians, and how can we help you? That's the basic thing.
The fight on the public opinion and the public media is not less important than the fight is going on now in Gaza. So we need your help in, again, spreading the truth, spreading the facts on the different platforms, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, on TV, of course, on traditional media, on the newspapers. Show the facts, and raise the question. We said you have a wonderful youth. They're very intelligent, and they are thinking. Ask them, how come they see the attacks on the Temple Mount? Did you ever ask yourself, how come that they had so many stones and firecrackers in the mosque? Is this something every Muslim comes to pray with? How come that Hamas has thousands and thousands of rockets ready for shelling? And why did decent, innocent people like Sumaya Santos from Kerala had to be killed by a rocket? Why a 5-year-old boy had to die? Why a 16-year-old Muslim Israeli girl had to die? These are all facts. Why these Palestinian children, as it was tweeted by the Palestinian Human Rights Organization, why these children had to die? How come they died? Let these facts be known to the world. These are the way that Hamas act. These are the victims of the Hamas blind terror attack. Just spread the word and engage with us. And again, check the facts, not only from Israel, because I'm a government voice. People say, oh, he's a diplomat, he's government voice, he's biased. Of course, that's what he's going to say. But we can connect you easily to many Indian citizens in Israel and or Israeli citizens from Indian origin. They speak Marathi, they speak Hindi, they speak Malayalam if they come from the south, and they can tell you in your own language their experiences. Okay, what it is. We have done this. We can do it. We can do it again. And many of them, by the way, live in these very cities who are being attacked, in Ashkelon, in Lod, and in Ramle, in that vicinity. So they experience themselves, and ask the ordinary citizen, and circulate tweets like from Hanani Naftali and others who are not government voice. That's the way you can engage with us and help us.
Okay, so thank you very much, Mr. Yaakov. Because we are running short on time, I would now request Mr. Dhirendra Chaturvedi ji from Pravah to kindly offer a vote of thanks to everyone who has joined us today. Mr. Dhirendra Chaturvedi ji.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll just take a minute or two. So first of all, many thanks to Captain Elsa Belli, because she joined us for a few minutes, and one could really appreciate as to in which position she would have been while she would be directing that military operations along with her own military men. So she joined us for a few minutes. I'm very thankful to her. Then of course, Yaakov ji, he has gone to a great extent to explain the current condition in Israel, and he has on the very onset he stated that fight is not against the Palestinians. He straight away said that the fight is against the Hamas people who vouched for eliminating the Israel. He also said that the Prime Minister Netanyahu had forewarned him, given him 3 days time. In spite of that, they have been shelling, and he has explained their position and all the questions which he could take, and many questions which could not be taken because of the shortage of time. He was able to make us understand the kind of situation they are in. And in my view, that we should not, really. I don't know why should we be raising so many questions in India while we have our own Hamas here, like Jaish-e-Mohammed is here, Harkatul Mujahideen is there, Hakul Ansar is there, Hizbul Mujahideen is there, and why should we be forgetting the 26/11, even when the 6 Jews were killed in the Chabad house? So we have our own experiences over here, and he has gone at great length in explaining how the ties of India and the Indians and the Israeli people have been for the ages. I think that what is important is that we have to learn the lesson that we learned in India. We know that a few hours back, the Saudi Arabia has called a meeting of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, where there are 57 nations are a member of this, and all of them are uniting for this. So what kind of attitude we must have and what kind of lessons one must learn, I don't think that he has any questions left to be answered. And more important is that he has also spoken of, in answer to a question, that how to fight on a military front and how to fight the media wars also. And lots of young people have joined, some seniors members of the groups have also joined. I suppose that we have had a very enchanting and very informative session. Of course, lots of questions have been answered, but we have a limitation of time. I thank again Yaakov ji and Elsa Belli. I also thank Anugrah ji and Ashutosh ji for conducting this whole talk very efficiently, and lots of the young people and the senior persons from media, many professors have joined, many teachers have joined, and lots of the people from the those who are working for the Indianness and the nation, they have joined. I thank you, all of you, and would request you to kindly again and again go through the history of Israel, how they have fought it out, go through our own history, the Indians, how we have been fighting out, and then learning lessons as to how to, we have to do for it. I'll just say a few words in Hindi also. तो हमारे लिए जो याकूब जी का जो आज का जो ये एक उद्बोधन रहा है, हम लोगों के लिए बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण रहा है। उन्होंने बड़े स्पष्ट शब्दों में कहा है कि वो लोग पैलेस्टीनियंस को आक्रमण करने नहीं गए थे, हमास ने उन पर आक्रमण किया है, और 3 दिन की वार्निंग देने के बाद ही उनके प्रधानमंत्री ने जो एक्शन शुरू किया, उसके बाद शुरू किया है। मैंने ये भी बताया कि हम लोगों को तो कोई हमास की जानकारी हो या ना हो, पर जैश-ए-मोहम्मद की जानकारी तो हमको है ही, हरकतुल मुजाहिदीन की जानकारी हमको है। अफगानिस्तान ने आज ही इस बात को कहा है, बहुत विस्तार से कहा है कि जब अमेरिकन फोर्सेस वहां से हट जाएंगी तो सबसे बड़ी जरूरत अफगानिस्तान को अफगानिस्तान बनाए रखने के लिए जो होगी वो पाकिस्तान की होगी। पाकिस्तान जब तक वहां पर इंटरफेयर करना बंद नहीं करेगा, तब तक जो है वो अफगानिस्तान वापस उसी स्थान पर नहीं आ पाएगा। अफगानिस्तान के लिए जो कुछ भी हमने किया है वो तो है ही। और एक प्रश्न के जवाब में जो इलेक्शन की बात उन्होंने की, हमारे एक साथी ने प्रश्न किया, तो आप ये देखिए कि इन कठिन परिस्थितियों में, जबकि नेतन्याहू जो है वो इलेक्शन के रिजल्ट्स बहुत क्लियर नहीं है, प्रश्न पे तो आई थी वो बातें, उसके बाद भी आज सारा का सारा इजराइल सारी राजनीति को, पॉलिटिक्स को भूल करके नेतन्याहू के पीछे खड़ा हो गया। और ऐसे समय में हमारे देश में क्या होता है वो भी हम जानते हैं। तो आज की इस टॉक से बहुत कुछ सीखने को है। जैसा कि मैंने कहा कि हमारे बहुत सारे इंटेलेक्चुअल्स, बुद्धिजीवी, प्रोफेसर्स, बहुत सारे जो एनजीओस में काम कर रहे हैं, राष्ट्र के लिए काम कर रहे हैं, वो लोग आज यहाँ जुड़े हैं। मैं आप सभी लोगों का बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ। अनुग्रह जी का और आशुतोष जी का भी मैं आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ कि आप लोगों ने इस सेशन को बहुत अच्छे से संचालित किया। आप सभी लोगों को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। नमस्कार।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद धीरेन्द्र जी।
बहुत धन्यवाद। If I may also have one last word.
Please.
First of all, as I said, shukriya, and I want to say those who want to support us on the social media, please use on your tweets the hashtag India supports Israel. Okay, India supports Israel. There's a war of hashtags also in shaping public opinion, and I'm really encouraged by this kind of interaction. As I say, you have wonderful youth, wonderful academia, and very thinking people, as the name of your organization also calls for. Yes, the Young Thinkers Forum. So I want to thank you and Prajna, Pravah in Bhopal for this initiative. That shows indeed you care for the truth and you care for peace. So thank you, Professor Anugrah, and all those who joined us today, Mr. Shotas, etc. बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद है, फिर मिलेंगे.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yaakov, Captain Libby, and Mr. Nimrod for joining us and enlightening us on this very crucial topic. Concludingly, I would just seek 5 minutes, and I would sincerely request the director of Young Thinkers Forum, Mr. Ashutosh, to kindly share a quote he has found very relevant and which he likes to share with all.
Shalom, namaste. Thank you so much, Mr. Yaakov. Thank you so much, Professor Anugrah. I sincerely thank Captain Libby. I'm not going to share much content here. Just I want to share a post made by one of our participant of the session, Mr. Pankaj Saxena. You can see it on the screen. This is what we need to think and understand. You don't need to be the rightist or Hindu nationalist to support Israel. You don't even need to be a decent human being to support Israel. You just need to be not a horrible monster, and you will find yourself compelled to support Israel and Jews against the attack of Palestinian Islamic terrorists and child killers. Thank you so much.
With this, I would like to declare that today's session is now concluded and you may leave the meeting. Thank you very much once again to all the dignitaries who have joined us and who have shared